Well,
The other thing is, what's that?
I am so sorry, Your Honor. You can finish. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
Uh,
off. Oh, that's so difficult. That's take into consideration if the ticket can be waived because I am a responsible, good driver.
and you're still here just saying nobody gave you a break, right?
No, you're misunderstanding me because I'm not aware of breaks and tickets. This is my first one, so I hope you understand that I don't know that that is a break.
Notice how she's trying to argue that being a good driver should erase this ticket. But legally, courts don't work on past reputation. They only rule on the facts of this case. Do you think that's fair? Or should a clean record count for more?
This is a speeding citation on an actual 88 and a 70. However, it was only written as 6 to 10 over. So, Ms. Aguilar, you are here on this 6 to 10 over speeder to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation. Or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation to court as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Number two.
Okay. And what is it you'd like to tell me?
Your Honor, I'd like to explain what happened that day when I received the citation. I was in the left lane passing a slower moving vehicle, and I did increase my speed briefly in order to pass and merge back into the right lane. But I was not driving recklessly. I was pulled over shortly after by the officer who was originally traveling the opposite direction and made a U-turn on that highway. Given the circumstance and nearby traffic, I'm not even sure the speed he clocked was mine. I thought I was pulled over because at the time I did not have my license plate attached to the back. It was in my front seat. So I was not aware of getting pulled over for speed. I just thought it was my car needing the identification. During the stop, the officer did conduct the conduction or the interaction made me uncomfortable. He questioned several times about alcohol and drugs, despite there being no evidence. He kept pressuring that, so that kind of made me like really scared. He did peer through my windows of the car. The car is brand new. So there's really nothing there. I've never been in trouble before. I have a really good driving record. I do take driving seriously. I lost my brother to a reckless driver. I'm just asking the court to just please take the circumstances into consideration when reviewing the citation.
Okay. Well, ma'am, if you contested the citation, I would hear evidence and decide whether or not you were responsible or not. You're admitting responsibility to the citation, so I can't change the nature of your ticket. Now, lots of times what people, when they come in here, what they're concerned about is getting points on their license. Do you know what I mean by that? Is
Yes,
that what you're concerned about?
I'm concerned about the points and the amount. I'm just concerned about it all, Your Honor. This
Uh,
is my first ticket I'm trying to fight.
Well, first of all, the officer didn't write you a ticket for going 88 and a 70. The trooper gave you a break and wrote you the second wimpiest ticket he could write you. I think this is only a 1 point ticket. But here's what I'll explain to you about points. I'm not going to give you points on this. The trooper didn't give you points on this. Points don't come from us. All right. That fines and costs is the only penalty. Now, points come from Secretary of State. Secretary of State court, two different animals. They can't tell me what to do. I can't tell them what to do.
Okay.
But here's what I would say about points. First of all, points die a natural death every 2 years. So if you could, if you want to, just outweight this point and it will go away after 2 years. But maybe more to the point, if this is what concerns you, is there's a way for you to get rid of that point. But all I can do is explain to you how to do it for yourself. I can't do it for you. But are you curious?
I am curious. I'm also curious to know if I don't know, this is my first time. I'm not sure if I'm doing this
Uh-huh.
right. Trying to fight it. I'm just agreeing with the officer. I honestly don't even remember that day how much speed I went because like I said, he was traveling opposite and there was multiple
Yeah.
cars and he was behind
Well,
another
here's
car.
a couple of things I would tell you. First of all, we do not mind people coming in here and essentially saying, "Look, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to see what happens, and this is what I want." the first thing first is, you know, when you're telling me that I thought I got pulled over for no plate, that doesn't make a lot of sense because the trooper, if he's coming at you the opposite way, he wouldn't know you didn't have a plate on the back of your car. So to spin around on you and pull you over is probably for a moving violation.
Well,
The other thing is, what's that?
I am so sorry, Your Honor. You can finish. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
The other thing is most of the people don't realize just how far away that they're getting radared by that. So in other words, it would be the opposite direction radar in the front of the trooper's vehicle. Yes, you likely got radared when you were passing someone, and that's why it was 88. I will tell you this, though. The actual law is you still can only go up to the speed limit to pass somebody. That's how slow somebody's supposed to be going for you to pass them. You were allowed to go up to 70 to pass, but passing is not an exception to the speeding rule. You still only can go the speed limit. But
Okay.
like I said, if you don't remember how fast you're going, the trooper's testimony would have been, of course, that his radar said 88, and then he checked his radar. So if he had had a hearing, I likely would have found you responsible. But here we are, sort of on the back end.
I do have a question. If we're able to pull the footage of that day, because the officer did say his camera was on, and when I was passing the car, he wasn't behind me like right away. It was a few miles down the road, and then he went behind me. So that's why I thought it was my license, not the
I will
speed.
let the trooper correct me, but when they say that, the camera comes on when they turn on lights and sirens. So it wouldn't have been on coming at you when it caught you speeding, and then he looped around on you, and then if to pull you over, he put his lights on. That's the camera footage he'd have, not of the speeding incident.
Can he pull that's so difficult. That's um since there is no proof and he said I was going 88 and I'm just agreeing to it, what do I do, Your Honor?
And here's the bombshell. This wasn't even the full speed ticket. The officer already downgraded it to one of the lightest infractions possible. She's fighting a break that most drivers would pray for. Ever seen someone argue themselves into more trouble?
Well, you could fight the ticket, but like I said, I know what his testimony is going to be, and your testimony is going to be, I really don't know how fast I was going. So
But
there's not much.
You just said he
What's
didn't have.
that?
You just said that there was the radar doesn't. He can't prove that radar was my car when he
No,
was trying.
ma'am. That's sort of a misunderstanding. Proof
Okay.
comes in many different forms, right? Now,
Yes.
if he had video footage, right, that would be one type of proof. But his testimony is in fact proof because he would be under oath and he would testify as to your speed. That is proof.
And for mine, can I be under oath and testify?
You would be under oath as well, but your proof would be, I really don't know how fast I was going. I just don't think I was going that fast. Which one of those two proofs sounds more firm and that I would go with at the end of the day?
Well, I would go with mine because the officer was really traveling the opposite direction. And I know I'm a safe driver. That's why I said I don't know. And that's why I was so confused when he pulled me over, was because
Ma'am, would you like to have a hearing?
If that's possible, yeah, I think I would.
All right. So, Trooper, if you would go ahead and raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Aguilar, go ahead and raise your right hand.
I apologize about the video as well. I'm having connectivity issues.
That's all right, as long as I can hear you. You swear or affirm any testimony you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I would like to get proof. I feel like I should see the video to testify for the proof.
Ma'am,
To see
the enormous amount of evidence that he just testified to is the proof, just so we're clear.
Yeah, he said that he was clocking south, but I saw him while traveling before passing. He was moving and making a U-turn. He wasn't sitting still. He wasn't. That's why I'm really confident that there was other passing vehicles. And he said that he's confident that the radar did read, and that's not technically proof. Like he's just verbally saying confident. And then he was behind a different car before.
No, ma'am. I'm gonna sort of crawl through this because if there was somebody else behind you, we wouldn't do this. But I want you to leave here understanding what happened.
Okay.
So what he testified to is he's literally just sitting there with his radar on, right? So to make sure that the radar works correctly, in the beginning of his shift, his radar has to check against a separately calibrated speedometer in his vehicle and come up with the same reading. If it doesn't, he can't use the radar all day. Then he uses the radar all day, and he does that check at the end of the shift too. And if it's not working at the end of the shift against his separately calibrated speedometer, he would just void all the tickets that he wrote.
Right.
So the first thing he said is visually he sees your car, right? Now we would let you normally back in the old days, you'd let officers or troopers guess at speeds because this is what they do all day and they're pretty good at guessing speed. But we don't let them say how fast you're going. But we do let them testify that they think this automobile is traveling above the speed limit of 70 miles an hour, which he did.
Okay.
Then what he did is get you with his radar, right? So he knows that you're the car in the radar because it tones out. In other words, it makes an audible tone. And the audible tone changes in pitch depending on how fast it goes. So he also knows if that tone doesn't match the number he's seeing, something's wrong.
Okay.
And then once your car is out of the cone of his radar, the tone stops. So that's how he knows it's sort of your car. Then he sort of flipped around on you and pulled you over. So he actually has testified 3 different ways that you are traveling well above the speed limit of 70. And what you're telling me is, I don't know how fast I'm going, but I just don't think I was going that fast. Now I have to pick one of those sets of evidence, right? Either your evidence, which is your testimony, or his evidence, which is his testimony. And I don't have to find beyond a reasonable doubt. You've heard that before, right? Because this isn't a crime. The standard for this, because it's a civil infraction, is you likely did it, 51%. So when I weigh all his evidence and testimony versus essentially the lack of evidence and testimony on your behalf, of course I would find it is more likely than not that you were actually speeding. You were actually going faster than the ticket you were written, but you were at least going 6 to 10 over. And that's why I would find you responsible. If you're searching for more than that, or that doesn't feel like a sufficient explanation to you, I don't know what else I can do for you, man. That's how this works all day, every day.
I understand, Your Honor. Is it possible confirmation from his radar to make sure that it was working accurately that day for me?
And here comes the radar argument, a classic move. But modern radar is extremely accurate and routinely checked. Courts accept officer testimony plus calibration logs as solid proof. Do you think she's genuinely confused or just refusing to accept responsibility?
I mean, I could have him testify to that, but we're going to wrap things up here. Every, I think, 90 days or so, a tier 3 operator checks the radars, and then every 120 days, a tier 4 operator checks all the radars in the car. And if there's any problem with any of the radars, they take those out of order. And there is some sort of maintenance logbook that the state police keep for that. You probably could subpoena those records or ask at a formal hearing that somebody would bring those records in. But at informal hearing, I would not expect the trooper to be familiar with those records at this state and time. Just know that there is, in fact, a method of continuously checking these radars that if there are problems, they're taken out of circulation. So that they're in circulation is sort of the prima facie evidence that against that set of checks, they are working.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want you to know that I wasn't driving recklessly. I was just passing. I do apologize.
Reckless driving is actually a crime. There is a whole charge for reckless driving. That's not what you have. You just have a charge of speeding, like lots of people do.
Take into consideration if the ticket can be waived because I am a responsible, good driver.
And ma'am, here's the problem, right? If what we did was judge everybody who gets a ticket on whether or not they're a good driver or not, that would be incredibly unfair. So bad drivers are just automatically responsible for their tickets because they did it in the past, or good drivers couldn't possibly be speeding because they've never got a speeding ticket before. That's sort of not, I mean, it's scary that that would be how the legal system works.